What is good, everyone? A-Rock Oakley back for another video. This is Wedge Part 8. And this one is going to be a lot of just kind of sideboard and maybe board cards. We had a ton of spoilers and a lot of cards that kind of need to be aware of. But let's just jump right into them. I think we got Air Superiority, which is if you control more space units than an opponent, deal 4 damage to a ground unit that opponent controls. Now, if Piet red especially becomes a problem, this is a card we will want in our sideboard to be able to deal with the Piet ground unit that is the 1/4 that allows for the ambushing. I think that card is one of the main pillars in Piet as Piet unit into resupply into ambushing something is pretty nuts and is pretty linear in that way. So having a way to interact with this on the second turn, because if they go Piet and we go space unit, we can take it out in this way. Now the Tarkentown version has a really good job into dealing with that with the Y wings, but usually they just take it to their base because they know that they're going to go bigger than you. But Daring Raid plus Tarkentown can take out that Piet unit. There's also merit to keeping Tarkentown um, for some of the big stuff that they do ambush in, so they can't just kind of get two trades on you. So solid card in air superiority that I'm definitely keeping in the it'll probably end up being something like 80 cards that we consider when deck building and putting into our sideboard and making work. Yeah, another cool card that I think is pretty unique is Dorsal Turret. This may be one of our better cards in like an aggro mirror, in allowing you to just trade uh, with stuff. So toss this on an X-wing token, takes out anything big. So that's kind of cool. Um, I think that this card has a lot of potential to swing games because if you put this on the right unit, you can really start to you can do a lot with this card, and it can make yeah, could just make for some really pretty insane trades to where they Voltron a unit and you just are able to cleanly go trade into it after maybe you absorb a swing, but yeah, I think that this is a very strong card to have access to, and very cool flavor and very space themed. So enjoying that one. Let me see. We got a couple new pilots. This resistance one is insane, and I think this is going to be more a Poe card or a um, Hondo, not Hondo, Holdo card to play off that resistance tag. It is very aggressive, probably more of a draft card, but if I was choosing between them, I would go with the Hopeful Volunteer, which this one, I think, fitting the Rebel tags and giving the extra HP. I think this number right here, +3, is exactly what we want to see. This allows for our units to survive more and trade. Um, Pushes them outside of Tarkentown range, pushes them outside of a lot of removal. This is great. I think this is the best of the three pilots. And to talk about the other pilot we got, that the generic one is the clone pilot. It's just a 2/2 for 2. Very great rate. I would, they kind of leverage themselves in three different ways. Of you get a 3/1, very aggressive statted. You get the 2/2 baseline, and then the 1/3. Hopeful Volunteer is the one that I like the most, and actually might incorporate a 1 or a 2 of into the main board of Wedge. But holding off on that right now because the space is tight after getting the Luke pilot, which has already proven to be pretty insane. And we'll talk about that here in a second. While we're on this, so we can jump off of this, Timely Reinforcements. This card is great in uh, coming back from like OBs, coming back from I don't know if it's very good as like coming back from Super Laser Blast because yeah, you generate 8 power worth of units, but that deck that's playing Super Laser Blast also is playing Snoke. so we just walk into getting snowed. And I don't think that that is great. Without having any disruption, this is tough. But I can see this being a card that allows us to just, on 5 resources, probably pay and make 2 X-wings, and could be good into the mirror. So where you make 2 X-wings and give them Sentinel. Now both of those having Sentinel can allow your other units to attack and push damage, and be free to go through. 2 Sentinels is hard to get through in that aggro matchup. So I think timely reinforcements could be a very strong card for us to be playing, and gives us some really cool play lines, especially when it goes up to 6 and you're getting that third um, X-Wing token. That's great. And not to mention, we can play this. We can stay on target those units. We can pilot them. We can do a lot of things to make them bigger units, and create some awkward situations for our opponents. So I do think that Timely Reinforcements was a cool card to be spoiled, and has not only some solid comeback potential for us, but also just can set up some situations where this is the card that buys us the turn to win the game, which is great. So continuing on, looking for some of the new cards. I have been actually highly considering a card like Planetary Bombardment. Probably in the side, but again, looking at this as, if if we've pushed enough damage, this could be a board wipe, essentially. Like, if we've put them to where they only have less than 8 HP on their base, this is going to take out some units, which could be enough for us to kind of really push and get through. So definitely considering this more and more, one of the craziest legendaries, I think, in the game right now. So very, very cool. What else am I missing? I think that we got the twin laser turret and system shock that I want to talk about. So we'll talk about the twin laser turret because I think this could be a very good card in the Tarkin Town build. Giving you, it's not a pilot, so you can't play it for 1 for +2/+2, but 2 for 2 for +2/+2 is pretty solid, and giving a pretty relevant text. And you get to choose where the damage goes, so you can start to put things in range to where they won't want to use their the damage from the Y wings, the indirect or the Gray Squadron 2 damage. They won't want to use those units, put that damage on their units. So you can set that up. You can clean up units. You can set up stuff for Tarkin Town. Twin laser turret, I think, does some really cool things uh, for the Tarkin Town build, but I still think we just want to be playing a pilot instead of this card. And again, this might just be a draft card, but really cool to see. And System Shock was the other one. I think Confiscate is generally still better, just because it can hit leader upgrades. So I'm not sold on this being, the card we want to be playing, but it does hit a lot of stuff. And dealing that 1 extra damage again sets up Tarkin Town, can sometimes be enough to clean up units, because often piloted units might trade into stuff, so they might have some damage on them, and just taking the pilot off doesn't necessarily defeat that unit. So I do see this being quite strong. So System Shock is something that I would definitely consider. Um, yeah. Outside of that, I think that kind of covers most of the new cards for Wedge that we would consider. Dogfight was the other one. Is that on here? It is not. Dogfight essentially is. Let's see if we can find it. Da, 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 da. Look at all these spoilers. They're so cool. Da, 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 da. Nope, nope. Enjoy this. It's really dumb. I was so close. There it is. Dogfight. I don't know if this is something we want. We don't have enough units with Overwhelm. If we played, what's his face? Tarkin? we might be able to, but still at the same time, I just don't think dogfight is enough. Um, yeah, let's talk about Luke again. Uh, okay, so I didn't realize just how good some of the play lines can be with Luke. He creates some really, really good situations of you're going to continue to apply pressure with him going to the ground and being able to continue to attack. If they've put all of their resources and dealing with your space stuff and then you just get a 3-2 body on the ground afterwards, that's amazing. Uh, he survives through, he gets through the OBs, he gets through super laser blasts, he gets through so much um, when that unit is defeated. And when he's defeated it, you can't be disabling Fang Fighter. Like this is great. So um, sometimes there's going to be plays where playing Luke on turn two as your pilot, or Chewbacca, those two lines sometimes they are backbreaking for your opponent because it puts them into an awkward play space. Now they're likely still going to just defeat this and give you an exhausted 3-2 on the ground, but that's fine because you know we're still keeping some pressure on. Chewbacca is always the better one to be playing on turn two because it just nullifies power, nullifies waylay, nullifies a lot of cards that you might see. But I do think Luke is awesome. I think he's going to stay as a two of just because you don't always want to be playing this on turn two. He fits into the +2/+2 turn on for resources on turn three. So just been fun, been really really fun. Uh, some of the change ups that I did to kind of fit the two Lukes in were I dropped a Red Squadron Y Wing. I kept them. I think that we want these just to have a good spaceship on turn one. I don't think that we very rarely want to be playing Luke on the ground turn one. So let's keep that in mind. And then I dropped one stay on target. I don't love doing that because we want to see it, but Rebel Assault is generally live with any two units, where stay on target might be if we have Fleet Lieutenant and Luke on the ground, or we have to deploy Wedge to the ground, or we put Chewie on the ground. Stay on target then doesn't have the same value that it does. So using this early on the 2-2 turn is great and has been good. We did go up to the 3 Spec Force. I think we added Leia to the side. Um, right now, it feels like these three cards, Spec Force Soldier, Disabling Fang Fighter, and Leia Organa, are really the main cards we want to be playing in the side. Daring Raids are just there because it's a good card, and Rogue Squadron Skirmisher can give us some late game. I could see timely reinforcements coming in maybe over the Daring Raids or the Skirmishers straight up. That seems fine. So sideboard wise, um, we're looking pretty good. I put the determined recruits in here. Where are they at? Nope, I don't want those. Oops. But yeah, looking at this list has felt really good. Playing this list has also felt really good. I do think you want three Fang fighters in your 55 or 60, whichever it is, at every stage of the game, and I mean, it's just it's a it's an okay body if you have to just play it, and you don't defeat an upgrade. But traitorous, other pilots, experience, shields. There's so much going on right now that we're gonna want to deal with, and disabling Fang Fighter can do a lot for that. And having access to it in your main board, I think, is also very very important. Uh, Bright Hope, goaded. Falcon, goaded. We're just in a lot of places of having some really, really valuable units. I'm still very high on Fleet Lieutenant and what it does about cheating actions. With Thermal Oscillator, as I mentioned yesterday, we get to leverage having the initiative a lot more, which allows us to make use of Rebel Assault more, Fleet Lieutenant more, um, guaranteeing putting a pilot like Luke or Chewbacca into a ship on our first action to protect a unit is very valuable. So, and or going into the 5 resource turn and being able to pilot Wedge into protecting something. Again, initiative is a very key part of this game, and loving what Fleet has offered with that and what Thermal Oscillator does. Some of the other slower draws that can happen in Tarkin Town, just to be aware of, is like if you happen to have a double Y-wing draw, or where you don't really get to go up the curve. The Y-wings can just be doing 1 damage a turn if they're able to soak the damage, which you're able to trade with their units. But if you're constantly only doing 1 damage to their base against some of the decks that go big, or if you're playing up against, like, if that's your lineup into a super laser tech deck, that sucks to have the Y wings as your units. So having less of these and having, like, I think X-wing into that deck is way better. So I like that Thermal Oscillator is offering just playing good units that don't have these conditional things. And now, don't get me wrong, when the Y wings are good, they're insane. Their ceiling is very high, but I do think that in general their floor is a touch lower than what an X-wing, Green Squadron A-wing, and the Phoenix Squadron A-wing is. So um, I am not completely off Tarkin Town. I do think that between Thermal Oscillator and Tarkin Town, Wedge is going to have multiple options to deal with the meta, and that's great. And that gives us two pathways to, depending on if we need to go faster, if we need to be more interactive, if we need to change things up. And we got some good cards that can add to that. Again, the timely the timely is great. Air superiority, giving us options to be able to deal with stuff with some great use. And yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes. We don't have much left, so we're gonna keep building, and we'll keep building after the full set is released. So yeah, let me know what everybody thinks about some of the new cards, and what kind of, let me know down below if there's a certain type of card you're hoping to see in these last bit of spoilers. For me, we got the generic pilot, so I feel like we're set there. But the list is feeling pretty tight, and I'm not sure where I would put anything in. Maybe Rebel spaceship. That's like X-wing, but we'll see. Maybe that's asking too much. But yeah, stay awesome, everyone, and may the force be with you.